Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another Testimony Tuesday or Testimony Tuesdays. I have another very special guest with me today. And I hope you guys enjoyed the first two testimonies that I did the last week and the week before, where I had a married couple on talk about their experience with growing their relationship with God and having faith and things like that. And the story today is very, very similar. But it's good to see God operating in different circumstances with different people, because nobody's story is 100% the same. And when you have an idea of other people's experience, it helps you to connect with God based on your own personal experience even more, because God is just doesn't just operate in one single way. And that's why we have to, open our minds or think outside the box, like my podcast talks about, in order to see what is God is doing for us in particular. So a lot of these Testimony Tuesdays, I'm certain will revolve around faith and trusting God and things like that. But seeing those things, how they operate in different scenarios with different people in different situations, things like that, is always helpful to help us expand our boxes. And so today I have a guest with me, Theresa, and she's going to talk about her experience with surrendering to God, and what that looks like, and how sometimes that might take you to some uncomfortable places, but the purpose that God does it for is always to grow you and stretch you. And before I bring her out, I just want to remind you all that if you're interested in sharing your own testimony, please contact me through Facebook, email, whatever contact information or outlet that you have, and we can set up a time to discuss that and see if it's a good fit for the show. So with no further ado, I will bring out Theresa. Hello, Theresa, and thank you
Hello.
again for participating on my Testimony Tuesdays.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, yeah, no problem. And thank you again for being willing to share this, because there are sometimes people don't want to share their stories. I know, like, some people might think that that's weird, but some people don't. Like, they want to kind of keep things to themselves, and especially if they're still kind of struggling with stuff, they don't want people to know. Sometimes people think that their struggles make them look bad, and things like that. And so I'm really grateful for anybody willing to share their stuff, because we can't grow and we can't grow if we don't do that. Like, we need each other. We need to understand what other people are going through. If you have, the Bible teachers, even in the Old Testament, things like that, if they never like shared their experience with God, their struggles, I mean, look at David and stuff like that, we would not have a lot of the information that we have about God today. So I do appreciate you doing this, as much as I know you appreciate being here. So thank you for doing that. So can you tell people a little bit about who you are? Introduce yourself, let them know who you are, and whatever information you want to share, especially anything that's relevant to the story that you're about to tell.
Sure. My name is Theresa Fallow. I'm married to my husband, Lawrence, and we have five mostly grown children. They're all over the age of 19. And I was working as a hospice nurse, starting an online business, and my husband was working as a high school math teacher before God called us to kind of leave everything behind and follow him, which is what my story is about.
Yeah, wow. And so when she says to leave everything behind, she literally means leave everything behind. Because sometimes God calls us to different levels of sacrifice, because things have different meaning to different people. So to some people, he might have you sacrifice this and that. But for you guys, it was to actually uproot everything where you were and everything, and live on a boat and travel and things like that. So let's hear a little bit about that story.
Sure. So my husband and I both grew up in the church, and we've loved Jesus for as long as we can remember. But in November of 2016, things changed. My husband was working as a computer programmer, commuting back and forth from Pittsburgh. We lived in the suburbs of Pittsburgh at that time. He was commuting back and forth about an hour a day and was very unhappy. He kept getting laid off from these jobs. They would choose to go a different route, to use a different programming language, and lay him off. So this was the second year in a row he got laid off right before Thanksgiving. And we
Wow.
were just frustrated. We had a lot
Mm,
of all the kids at home, and it was just really frustrating. So we met on this day he was laid off, and just really prayed and got to a point in our prayer where we were like, we're going to have to do something radically different here. And we both decided to 100% give our lives to God in this place of total surrender, which I've never done that before. And like I said, I've loved Jesus forever, but I never really did that whole, okay, Lord, here's my life. I'll go wherever you want me to go, to do whatever you want me to do. And however that looks is fine with me. I'm all in. And we both prayed that heartfelt prayer, which is a scary, scary prayer to pray. You have to do whatever he says. Right?
Yeah, I mean, they say be careful what you wish for, but I've learned a long time ago to be careful what you pray for also.
So. Be careful what you pray for. But we sincerely meant it. It felt right. It was a very peaceful experience. It was the right thing. And that led us to move back home to Anderson, South Carolina, which is where we were both raised. So this was November of 16. And by the spring of 17, we had moved back home and settled in. I was working as a hospice nurse. He was teaching high school math, which was a total career change. He really liked it. Everything was good. And we thought, great, this is where God wants us. That was easy. We're going to get to be here forever. Got active in our church, made friends, So that was spring of 17. And then we also started to travel a little bit. He was working as a high school soccer referee, saving his money. And we were able to start taking vacations, which we had never taken before. We raised 5 children, a blended family of 5 kids. So we started traveling and realized that we really liked this traveling thing. But I had a lot of health issues then that I don't have now, but I did then. And it was really hard for me to travel. So all of that traveling, wanting to travel, having it be hard to travel, left some like uncomfortableness in our spirits to where we really started praying, Lord, if this traveling thing is something that you're wanting us to do, we're going to need some sort of a workaround here, because what we're doing isn't working. It's really hard to eat well and sleep well and all of those things when you're traveling. Mm-hmm. So to make a very long story short, that desire to do whatever God wanted us to do, that unsettledness related to feeling like he wanted us to travel, but not knowing what that was going to look like, led us to start praying specifically for how he wanted us to do that thing. And in the fall of 2019, we realized that God wanted us to buy a sailboat. And we had never been on a sailboat. We had never been on, like we had never even been on somebody's sailboat before.
Wow.
And in January of 2020, I don't know if you've ever moved to a new town and sort of gotten on the house listings to see how much things cost and how much house you get for a certain amount of money. But that's sort of what I was doing with sailboats. I was just looking at the listings to see how much things were and thinking a couple years from now, when we have money saved and where my online business I was trying to launch was more established, that one day in the future, maybe that's when God would call us to go. Mm-hmm. And that is not what he did. In January of 2020, I was scrolling through these listings and I just knew, like I had been sucker punched, that this was the boat he wanted us to buy. Years before we were prepared to do so. And again, it's a really long story. I have a whole blog series about it, but the gist of it is, if I cashed in my 401k and we scraped together our pennies, we had exactly $7,000. We didn't have $7,001. Like, that's all we had that we could contribute to this thing God was asking us to do. I saw the boat. I knew that was what God wanted. We submitted an offer and they accepted it. Mm-hmm. And I thought I would be sick. Did not think that God was going to call us to do something this radical so quickly. So we bought the boat and we moved on full-time living on a sailboat in June of 2021.
Wow.
And that's where we've been ever since. And it's a mess. That's why we could get it for $7,000. We don't have running water. We had to rip up all of the flooring and start from scratch. So we're living in a construction zone. And it's crazy. It's really crazy. And it's really amazing all at the
Right.
same time.
Right. And that's wow. So what would you say to people who would say to you, how do you know that God told you to do that? Like, because
They
I'm sure
ask me that
that,
all the
yeah,
time.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So my husband and I both had been praying separately and together, but separately about things. And we both had the same like guttural reaction to this specific boat. We knew that we only had that much money and not a penny more. My husband is 6'3", and it's very uncommon to find that kind of headroom in a sailboat that we could afford. I mean, usually those are giant yacht boats. There were just several things about the boat that we were going to need. And this boat just had all of them. I mean, we just knew with certainty, praying separately and then coming together, that this was the thing. I don't know how people ask me that all the time. It's like this guttural knowing, that I think comes with seeking his will in other areas of your life and then seeing it play out. But we were certain. Even though we weren't happy about it, we were hoping we were years down the road, but we were just convicted with certainty that this was exactly what he wanted us to do.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point. So two things about how do you know it's God? Number one, it comes from experience. And so I know that, I've been a Christian for almost 20 years now. In the beginning, I didn't know what he was saying half the time, and I would guess and I would realize that I was wrong sometimes. Like, oh, that wasn't God. And then a lot of people mistake their own feelings for God. They think that because they want something and they like something and they get a tingle that that's God, then you have to learn, oh, that's not always God either. And so through experience, trial and error, you learn, kind of refine how to hear his voice. And then another really good point that it comes out of what you're saying is that at the end of the day, it's still about faith. So even if you, like you said, you guys were 100% certain, it's still because he's not standing in front of you and saying with your mouth or written on a billboard flashing letter saying, do this, there's still an essence of faith to it all. So if you get to a point where you need to be absolutely, absolutely perfectly sure, like God is standing right in front of you, that's actually not faith. And so there will always be a component in faith in our relationship with God because he's not physical. And we do have to kind of play it by ear and try to figure out how he's directing us. Over time, we get better at doing that.
Right.
But the important thing is that a component of faith also comes with understanding that if you get it wrong, you're still okay. Right. So it's not like if you get it wrong, you messed up, like your whole life is jacked up, you're never going to do this, but that he can still take your mistakes and still work them into the bigger plan that he has for your life. So I just wanted that came to my mind when you were talking. So I just wanted to highlight that. But now let's go back to your story. So you guys are living on a boat now, which is, I mean, like you said, it sounds exciting, but
it sounds exciting. Yeah. Everybody tells me that we're living their dream. We're living their dream life. And it's not really a dream life. Not yet anyway. It's a construction zone,
Yeah.
I think when the construction's over and we have running water, and it's not quite as cold, that things maybe will be a little more dreamy, but it's been work. It's been a lot of hustle and work. But we also have had the opportunity to meet amazing people, to see God show up every time we've needed something that we haven't known how to do, and we've stopped and we've prayed, the person that we've needed has shown up every single time along the way. Just countless stories of how God is working. But it is hard hustle kind of work.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what would you say now? You guys been living on the boat now, getting close to a year now. So, so what would you say? Because it does take time for God's ultimate plan to kind of unravel with what he wants from us. So what do you feel like so far has been the ultimate goal that God is trying to get you guys to do? Is it to minister to people? Is it to let go of material? Like, what do you think?
Right. No, I think there's three big things. One, my husband and I live like a lot of people where we didn't get to spend that much time together. He was coming and going, I was coming and going. We were raising all these kids, like we were just busy. And this is the first time that we've ever been forced to slow down and really be in each other's space. Always in each other's space, like no escaping being in each other's space. So that's been really awesome, but a lot of growth that's come through that. And our relationship is so much stronger. So I think that was a big part. And I think just the part of slowing down and seeing God has been a big part because we're in nature. So we're watching the sunrises and the sunsets and the pelicans. And I mean, all of the nature just has been so reaffirming that our Father is a good, good Father. I mean, it's just been beautiful to experience the nature. But the third thing is that I had been wanting to launch a business and I had all of these ideas, but no time to be still and really seek his will on every facet of how it was going to come together. And he's given me just abundantly more than I knew to ask for, really, as far as it comes to that. So it's been just a beautiful process.
Right. Wow. So, I mean, I really like that because, too often we're concerned about the surface and we're concerned about our comfort. And when God does stuff, he's thinking about the stuff we can't see. He's thinking about our spirit, our peace, our relationships, spiritually, the connection between our relationships, our hopes, our dreams. He's incorporating all of those things. And it's when we kind of can take our eyes off of the physical and our comfort at times that we get the deeper meaning of life. And that it sounds like exactly what you guys are experiencing, that you kind of let go of all these very typical things that we do, raise kids, we go to work and stuff like that. You kind of looking for some security and things like that. And you decided to let that go. And then God has revealed the deeper things in life be under those things. And so it's affirming to me as well. I really like doing these and talking to people because I always say that I get something out of it too. I'm the type of person where I'm always learning. My brain is like a sponge. So anytime I'm talking to people and things like that, I'm always able to kind of grab a hold to something for myself. Even if it's just a bigger understanding of God and how he does things from talking to people about things like this. So I really appreciate you sharing your story. Did you have anything else to add to that story or?
No, I don't think so. I guess the takeaway is just that concept of abundantly more. So that I really believe that he wants abundantly more for you than you even know to ask for. But we clutch on to what we think we want and what we think our life is supposed to be like. And when you'll open your hand and give it back to him and surrender, then he can bless you. He can bless your efforts and your intentions in your heart.
Wow, that's beautiful. All right, thank you so much. And that was a great way to wrap up, you guys. Theresa is going to be back on for About My Father's Business Thursdays to talk about that business that God has given her more time to now invest in. So stay tuned for that. And again, if you want to share your testimony, reach out. And you guys, I hope you got something out of it and you have a blessed day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.